Hello and welcome. Today on the show, we are going to explore the inspiration for this very podcast. This is Lillie's Q, Ivory barbecue sauce hailing from northern Alabama. We are so excited for you to be here today, and we certainly hope you enjoy the show. This is Soft Spoken.
And we're back. We are Sauce Spoken. We are three pasty boys bringing you some information about your favorite sauces, dips, and condiments. And to give a little bit of a spoiler, these three pasty boys are going to be talking about one hell of a pasty sauce tonight. I'm your host. My name's Adam. I'm joined here this week with my co-host, Tori.
Hello. Yes, that is correct. Today we're going to be looking at quite a white sauce. I'm looking at it right now, and the reflection is burning my retinas right out of my eyes. So I will pass it to my right. As always, our friend Eric.
Good evening, everybody. We're excited to be doing a new and interesting sauce. A lot of high hopes, I think, going into this one. I think could be easily said. And,
Easily.
Yeah, that's true, Eric. We wanted to thank you guys as well for listening, as we always are. We really appreciate that. And if you guys appreciate us, one of the best things you can do for us right now is to head on over to a place like iTunes and, give us a little bit of a rating or review on an outlet like that, especially on there. If you give us a written review or a 5-star rating, that really helps us a lot. Or if you're listening to us on a platform like Spotify, if you can give us a follow or wherever you're listening to us, whatever you can do for us on there, we really appreciate the hell out of that. That helps us reach more listeners and then provide more of our grade A, tier 1, highest quality content to you, the listener. How are you doing this week, Eric?
Yeah, Adam, I've had a pretty good week. It has been an eventful week, as I'm sure we will all be eager to talk about.
Yeah, how was your trip to Washington this week, Eric?
I don't think I want to start off quite that, with that yet.
Where did you find the horns and the raccoon skins? That's what I want to know.
It's a good look, isn't it?
You were hard to recognize in the face paint, but I know a sneaky motherfucker like you anywhere. What about you, Tori? How are you doing this week?
This week I had to pick up my little kitty cat. He got neutered this week. It's a terrible shame.
Poor little Len.
Yeah, I feel bad for him, but that's another story for another show.
Is he doing okay?
Oh, he's doing fine. Yeah,
okay.
He was jumping around. He was bugging my big older cat quite a lot. And the story that I thought was pretty silly is I'm going to ring out. I'm at the front desk, reception desk of this vet's place. Hands me the bill. It's a couple $100, whatever. I'm looking at the bill, and I see they charged me for a canine neuter. Yeah.
His balls were that big.
Right?
So I said to the gal, I said, what's the difference between a canine and a feline neuter? And she turns around and she looks at me and she says, oh, not a whole lot. The anatomy's just about the same. I almost hit the roof. You guys are the doctors, not me. I do not care about dog parts one iota. I'm paying the bill here. What's the difference between a feline and a canine neuter? I almost lost it.
Was there a difference in cost?
I thought you were setting up
$60 worth.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Smoke.
I was going to say like $150.
Yeah, $60 worth of difference when it comes down to that type of thing. I couldn't believe it. I was like, how about my anatomy, hun? Is that just about the same too? Or are you I got to write that down.
Well, they're all animals.
Dogs got parts too, I guess. What the hell? But
I would imagine probably a lot of that is. I imagine the amount of anesthesia they give them, just based on body mass, I would have to imagine there's a difference there. But that is bizarre. Especially
so they knocked the hell out of your poor kitty.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny because when you started this story, I was going to ask if you wanted to plug your vet. I'm going to guess that you probably do not want to give them a positive recommendation at this point.
I like them. I'm going to keep going back down to them.
Okay.
I understand the situation. They were busy as heck.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that mad. Of course, I didn't. That was embellished naturally, but. It was one of those moments where you sit there and think, this lady seriously thinks I'm asking about dog nuts. And you couldn't measure how little I care about something like that, especially when I got my credit card in my hand. But that was my little I'll regale you with the silliness that happens to me on a day-to-day basis.
As long as that little orange guy don't start woofing, I guess you're all good.
That's the same thing I mentioned to her. I said, I don't want, don't give me back nothing that woofs. So I gave you something. He was little orange by 5 pounds.
Hella cute.
Yeah, hella cute as a dickens. And I want something like that back if that's possible.
I heard the coming home story was pretty touching.
He's screaming. Yeah, he's always hollering about something. Yeah.
I heard a different coming home story from your wife.
I'm all confused now.
She said that little Len, the first thing he did was run up to Carmine and give him a hug.
Oh, yeah, he gave him a big hug.
Gave him a big hug, like
sweet.
You told me this would happen.
Oh, yeah, he gave him a big hug. Yeah, he was
sweet.
still a little woozy, so he put his front 2 paws on him and then sort of leaned forward. And
Cute.
It sort of transformed into a hug from there. But yeah, so it was, sad story. I don't want to hear about that. So there you go. The difference between a feline and a canine neuter, just in case you're curious. There's not much anatomy speaking.
Right.
But there's a $60 difference if you're curious, if you're paying the bill.
Well, she was probably under the mistaken impression that most 3-year-olds are, that all cats are girls and all dogs are boys. Maybe that was what the issue was.
Yeah, maybe.
Because TG looks like a 3-year-old.
Yeah, well, she thought she was trying to break it down to his terms, so.
I couldn't believe it.
I've seen, to be fair, though, you and I have seen Tori in various stages of inebriation, and he's not that's not a far stretch at times.
No,
so.
I can usually keep it together.
Well, that's true. We mentioned last time you beat us at some board games the other week, so.
It's actually fairly clever if they were actually trying to scam you, because if she said that to me, I might have just been like, okay, there's no big difference, then I guess it's the same cost.
You would have been too scared to talk to a girl anyways and confront her.
Most likely. But I would have just been like, fine, okay, if it's, basically the same. Like, I wouldn't have jumped to the immediately that, she's talking about anatomy. Right. She just said, they're about the same. Well,
I would have assumed it was cost-wise, too, in that case, yeah.
I would have just paid the bill.
I would have questioned it because I don't believe that that's the case, but I would have thought that was a little... I probably would have pressed her a little bit. But, yeah, that is bizarre.
And truth be told, I still do not care about canine anatomy. I mean, I'm just going to make that just abundantly clear.
I'll have what's your personal email? I'll have the listeners, send you an email with the explicit details.
All the vet students, they can send me their notes from school. Yeah.
Right. They'll send you, if you guys want to send any dog balls, send them to, and we'll give your address.
There we go. Yes, please.
No, okay, let's think here. Historically, we did touch on a little act of sedition at the Capitol this week. That was our little bit of news trivia that we'll blow right by, so we don't...
That's a heavy word to use, boy. That S word.
That S word. It's kind of like our C word that we used last week. It was a complex situation.
I think, last weekend was pretty noteworthy for me. I did some baking. I made a cheesecake of sorts. I made a cheese sheet thing.
Yeah, you made a cheese sheet for my girlfriend for her birthday, which was very kind of you.
I did.
She took the entire cake from you after that.
That was good.
Apparently it went over well. Yeah, I mean, being lactose intolerant, I tried not to eat too much of it, although I still had a fair tasting, and it was a lot of fun last weekend. We had a good time.
It was last weekend.
It was last weekend. Okay.
Not for podcast listeners. This was for going back in time.
Yes.
Time.
It's a paradox.
Yeah, but no, that was from current recording. Yeah, that was last week. Cool. Well, let's kind of focus. I know we're not gonna have a nice, neat segue like we do sometimes there, but
we have all this cheese we were just talking about.
Oh yeah,
cheese tends to be pretty pale, and
that's a real
sort of stretch this.
Holy shit, yeah.
Stretch Armstrong, go Gadget.
Yeah, I'm getting that pit in my stomach trying to put that one together,
Eek.
But. No, let's go ahead and kind of move on to the sauce this week, because I wanted to talk a little bit about this, a little preamble here, because as I'd mentioned to you two, that when I initially kind of roped you guys into doing this little podcasting project with me, we discussed it initially at first. If you guys recall, we kind of discussed the concept of doing a podcast in general, and we were kind of a little bit uncertain exactly what we wanted the topic to be, but we kind of knew that we wanted to do one. And one of the things that initially made me think to do one based on sauces in general was I was walking through the grocery store the one day, and I saw in particular this sauce that we're doing tonight, and it really got me thinking, like, man, this is a really bizarre, off-the-wall thing, and I really want to try it, but I don't really know if I'm going to like it, and I don't necessarily have a reason to try it just on its own in its own rights. For one thing, as we had talked before the show, it's a little bit on the expensive side. I think this was a $6 or $7 bottle, But like I said, all in all, just a little bit bizarre. But this was kind of like, hey, if we start up a podcast talking about sauces, that gives me a reason to bring this on. We can discuss it, and it gives us a valid reason. And even if I don't like it, it'll still be entertaining content.
Well, it certainly has a weird, eye-catching, I'd say attention-grabbing. When you're walking down the grocery store aisle there, I could see how this would jump out, though I've never seen it before.
Well, in particular, when you consider the section of the groceries, in the sauces in particular, that it's normally located with, it stands out like a sore thumb.
A diamond in the rough, I would imagine.
And instead of teasing here, we're giving people metaphorical sauce, canine, feline, blue balls, whatever.
Oh my.
So why don't you go ahead and lead us off a little bit and tell our listeners here what we're looking at there, Tori.
Wow. Okay. Well, it looks to me as a bit of an old-fashioned beer bottle. You remember the old-timey beer bottles?
Like the red stripe is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, red stripe, exactly right, but just sort of shrunk down.
I think they're about that size, aren't they?
They're actually smaller. They're technically
they're actually smaller, right?
Oh,
is that so?
They're a pint. They're 16 ounces.
Okay.
And how many ounces?
We got 17 here.
Oh, it's 17? So roughly that size. In the same ballpark in any case.
Yeah, so I mean, as far as shape, that's what that's how I would give it. The metal twist on top, that's sort of harkens back to an older time. The labeling itself is very clean, black, white. Of course, the sauce is white naturally, and I'm sure against the backdrop of
so we didn't actually say what the sauce is.
Yeah, do you want to lead us off with the name?
Oh, certainly, yeah. This is Lillie Q's Ivory barbecue sauce. This particular offering is Northern Alabama White.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, the key to the listeners there, as Tori kind of led into, the ivory is really the key word in that, because this sauce it's a white barbecue sauce. I mean, you can't put it much more simply than that. Something that you don't normally see, or at least nothing that I'm used to looking at.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just to be 100% clear here, that is Lillie's Q. Or is it Lillie Q's?
No, I think it is Lillie's Q.
Okay.
As in, like, a shortened version of BBQ?
I guess. I did think the name was interesting. I immediately wanted to call it Lillie Q's, and that's what you said. But when I looked at the label, I realized it's Lillie's Q.
It's kind of like, and actually this is a good little tie-in because I wanted to revisit this a little bit. It's kind of like the word Brussels sprouts. Did you know that it's actually Brussels sprouts,
just like
and
the
not
country.
Brussels sprouts?
Right.
Are you aware of that?
No.
Yeah, just like the country, exactly. Which
leads
me back into a little bit, like I said, we'll go back in time, again to listeners, because today as we're recording this we're not going to date it that much. Today as we're recording this, our second part of our episode on the Yellowbird sauces dropped, and in the meantime, between the time that we recorded and we released it, as you listeners may remember, Eric gave us a delicious recipes for his homemade, customized. You bought it from a store, but customized Brussels sprout and chickpea salad that you made. We're not going to revisit that too in detail, but
I made multiple references to it as Brussels sprouts.
No, that's not
Brussels,
even.
Right?
Well, yeah,
we said
you always
it wrong.
fuck up, and you always want to change it to edit yourself to sound like a genius. We've touched on that too, but I think that's common parlance, though. You can make an argument. But no, what I wanted to touch on was that Yellowbird actually posted a recipe to their Instagram page of Brussels sprouts using their sauce, and I was like, what the fuck? They read Eric's mind. I was very concerned about that.
They stole your notes for once. Your notes were finally stolen.
Theirs was a roasted, like a cooked.
Yeah,
and
how you
hot.
make Brussels sprouts.
Yeah. It
not in a fucking salad.
It looked way better. Let's just make sure.
It looked like something that's food. First of all, that's the important part. No, I've also noticed, and I don't know if you guys have made this observation, I've become a follower of them on Instagram, but they seem to have a fetish with eggs. I've seen that, we noted on their website that they had like 20 different egg recipes, and every other thing they post to their Instagram is egg related for some reason.
Quail eggs?
For all I know, probably. For all I know, they provided the seasoning to those quail eggs that we tried. No, that was a little bit of an aside there, but
hot sauces and eggs do go together really well, so I could see it, but I haven't really been following Yellowbird sauce like you have, so.
Well, I happen to notice, and I just see, like I said, almost every other thing they post is in some way egg-related, which, if that's to each his own, but to me, that's not my first thing I think of when I think of hot sauces. It's a thing, but not the first thing.
I suppose that's true.
Let's bring it back to our sauce we're talking about here this week. Tori, you were doing a really good job of giving us a little bit of description of the package there.
Okay, so yeah, as we mentioned before, it's a beer bottle-esque, the old-timey ones. The black and white label is very clean, very nice. This happens to be the Northern Alabama white. I think I may have mentioned that before. Something that Adam and I take a particular shine to is the number designation.
Yeah, absolutely.
This happens to be number 65, if that means anything to you, if you're keeping score at home. One thing I found particularly humorous is, hey, try us on fries, and so on and so forth. Chicken, the Ivory companion and so forth. Trust us, we're professionals. So from one professional to another, certainly an interesting sauce. E, why don't you take it away? Did I miss anything?
Well, I want to scoot in there for a second. I like to cut, if we can cut E off, that's all the better for me. But I did want to interject.
Typical
there.
Adam move, yeah.
You did mention that it looks kind of like, a beer bottle, but also, even the labeling itself is very much, if they filled that up with some kind of a brown, liquid and stuck it on a shelf with a bunch of other liquor, I think that would fit right in too. It's got that kind of labeling that very, small batch liquor, down home recipe-esque kind of deal,
Yeah, plain.
Like fancy. It's simple, but they're trying to make it look fancy simultaneously, so.
I do think it's interesting. It says number 65. Does that mean it's a small, is this the 65th time they've bottled this sauce, or is this the 65th flavor they've come up with? Is this?
I'm thinking it's the latter out of the two. If I were to guess,
if I had to guess, I would say that as well, because they, one thing we did peruse through their website briefly, and they did seem to have a lot of other offerings, both for sauces, rubs, marinades, blah blah blah, various iterations of things. So I think they have a lot of products. It's not, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that a white barbecue sauce was not, in the first 10 things they came up with.
True. But 65 almost seems like a lot. I don't know. Maybe it's like it definitely isn't
who knows, man?
It's definitely not an ingredient list the way Heinz 57.
Yeah. But bear in mind, though, too, that it may just be they had some sauce attempts that they didn't release to the public. That's
what I was getting to. Is possibly this is a 60. Yeah, if you didn't, cut me off. This is possibly a 65th recipe attempt, and the one that
throat off,
the one that made it.
That kind of fucking lip.
Remember,
if you didn't cut me off,
never forget.
Jesus Christ. Anyways, why don't you give us a little bit of a breakdown of the actual sauce itself, kind of appearance-wise, there, Eric?
All right, so it's not a blindingly white sauce, as we may have jokingly opened the episode with here. It's kind of more of a creamy, almost eggnoggy kind of look to it. It has a little bit of speckling throughout it, very fine, like black pepper suspended through it. It reminds me a lot of like Caesar salad dressing. Actually,
that was kind of a fun thing that when we opened on the episode, I held it up backwards to you guys and asked you guys to guess what you thought it was. Tori, I think you said ranch, right?
That was my first guess. Yeah,
which I thought it was a good guess, but based on the viscosity, almost I think that Eric kind of hit it more on the head within the black pepper flake of thinking it was some sort of Caesar salad dressing.
Creamy.
Kind of to take on your thing about it not being stark white. I think part of the effect that you guys, I would encourage you. So I found this at a Giant Eagle. Like I said, I paid I think $6 or $7 for this bottle, so a pretty pricey one, but if you guys happen to have this available in a local grocery store, just take a look at it, because like I said, in comparison to the other barbecue sauces that it's sitting next to that are darker, it looks much more dramatically white. In the store, I remember this looking distinctly white. And in here in your sultry lighting in the Nerd Palace, it looks much more, it looks much darker. So let me go you have some other barbecue sauces here. Let me go grab those and I'll set them next to them, and we can get a little visual contrast there.
Oh yeah, I'm sure this white behind the backdrop of a very browny, crimsony, molassesy
wall
shelf
of other sauces, it'll look absolutely
would certainly stand out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, even if the bottle next to it had a white label, which of course this one does, I don't think that would even make that big of a difference. I think it would be just as much of a standout as it is now. Oh yeah, and now that Adam has the other two, I would very much say typical barbecue sauce
coloring.
Colorings. Yeah, that really
That really stands out.
Yeah, I think that helps give a little bit of contrast too, and especially if you imagine on a whole shelf full of dark ones, like, because that's kind of how they have it staged on the shelf, is right in the middle of a bunch of other darker brown sauces. And I think they have several other varieties of this brand as well. But this is the one that, like I said, if nothing else, it really stands out and catches your eye.
Yeah, leave it to Giant Eagle. They always have quite the selection of stuff. There's stuff you probably wouldn't find, at least, locally and anywhere else. Just weird stuff.
And I like your reference to like a liquor bottle or like almost like an old time medicine bottle,
Yeah,
like,
I thought that too. Yeah, you'd put like
Yes.
your lye or your iodine in there or
Some
something.
sort of tincture.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good observation, and I wonder if maybe availability in our area is partially because of this origin. So it's kind of, the origins of this sauce are a little bit complicated because, as we learned on the website, it seems like the creator, inventor of this, I guess.
the line of sauces.
Yeah, the line of sauces originally was from, what do we say?
Greenville, South Carolina.
Yeah, Greenville, South, one of the Carolinas. Was it South or North?
It's a click away.
I don't give a shit. I'm taking a hard stance. It's fucking West Carolina.
For what it's worth, yeah.
But in any case, we're a bunch of fucking idiots here. We mentioned before, this is not news to people.
Obviously, none of us are geography students.
It's fucking Carolina. It should have been one state anyways. Jesus Christ. I mean, it's the same thing with the Dakotas. They had so few fucking people, they had to split it into 2 states. I mean, honestly.
Wow.
I'm taking a hard stance on that too. I think we should sell one of them to Canada and just make it Dakota. Probably the North one would make more sense.
Probably.
But in any case, the man who the person, however he chooses to identify, from North Carolina or South Carolina, whatever the case may be, moved to Chicago and started a line of restaurants. And started a line of restaurants, and this was the sauce that came out of that restaurant. So he took kind of his roots from the Carolinas and used this sauce in his restaurants.
Yeah,
And
I noticed on the website they had a picture of a grandmotherly figure in the background on his about story, and I was saying he's hearkening to his southerly roots there. I thought that was interesting.
Right.
I was like, is that really a picture of his grandmother, or is that just some stock image?
Well, it almost, to me, I almost got a little, and this is a little thing I wanted to touch on too, because we discussed this before, kind of like back with the Sweet Baby Ray's, where there's almost like a little veil of insincerity behind it. And that was kind of what I was almost getting. And this is totally an off-the-wall accusation. For all I know, I am completely wrong about this, in all full disclosure. But it almost seems like he's some Chicago restaurateur businessman who's kind of play up his down-home roots in order because...
Carpetbagger.
Oh, yeah, a little bit, because otherwise, how would this guy get any kind of sales on a barbecue thing? That's not what Chicago's known for. They're known for their disgusting pizza. So, but I'm just kidding. I like Chicago-style pizza, but I've never been to Chicago. So, again, I'm just taking a hard stance off the wall, and you guys can blast me. But, no, that's almost what I was getting off of, too. And kind of the same thing as I had mentioned earlier with the labeling. I like the labeling. It's that clean, simple labeling. But again, it's a high-priced sauce, $7, and it's got this simple labeling, and it almost seems like it's trying to kind of masquerade as that down-home, small batch, country-made, home-style thing. But there's, it's got that air of pretentiousness behind it, I guess.
Yeah, I have to agree. I definitely see that in a way. I mean, but I don't know if we mentioned, I think you did say that it's a glass bottle, which we all prefer over, so there's a certain high-end appeal to it that's certainly what would hook you too, I think, and even if it comes across maybe slightly disingenuous.
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm totally reading into this entirely. This is all just based off of one quick look at the website and a look at the sauce bottle. So by no means I am certain that is any of that true. That's just my initial kind of impressions.
Yeah, I don't get any of the fakeness that we got with that one sauce. I know that we mentioned that before. That sort of superficial phony baloney-ness. I didn't get any of that with this. The pretentiousness, oh yeah, certainly got an air of pretentiousness. On the glass bottle, though, that's an interesting point. I think a squeeze bottle with this particular sauce, being it's so watery, would be a disaster.
Oh, absolutely.
Would
yeah,
be
you
an
almost have
absolute disaster. Yeah, so a glass bottle would almost be a necessity, whether or not it's for aesthetics and, Richie Rich, to play up that image or not. I don't know. But a squeeze bottle of this, you would be swimming in Ivory barbecue sauce.
And that kind of leads into a couple other things I wanted to mention. One of which being, that when we first shook this and poured it out, I poured a little bit out into a cup to taste it, and I actually closed the bottle back up and shook it more because I actually thought that maybe it had separated and I hadn't quite gotten it all fully mixed back together. But no, it is a very thin sauce, especially for how you would normally consider a barbecue sauce to be. And another little tidbit that you guys didn't get to see because I ruined it in advance of coming here was that when I initially brought it home, it had kind of separated on the bottom, so there was almost like a yellow, more liquidy kind of, I don't know, almost like an oily looking thing, but it had settled to the bottom of the sauce.
Ooh, I think that would turn me off if I saw that in the store.
Yeah, it did turn me off a little bit too. And actually, but almost instinctively, I just shook it just to kind of get that mental and, real image out of my face, and I thought, I really should have snapped a picture or something like that just for the sake of documentation and for you guys to see it. But it wasn't that bad. It was just a little off-putting. But, sometimes things like that, as we mentioned before, sometimes that just speaks to the fact that maybe they didn't use all the preservatives and emulsifiers and other shelf stabilizers that they threw in, mass-produced commercial products.
And that's exactly true here. They actually have it. I think, did you allude to the no high fructose corn syrup written around the bottle?
I don't believe so, no.
Didn't we decide it was fructose before?
I don't remember saying that, but fructose, I like that.
Okay, the fructose. Fructose.
Yeah. No artificial colors, flavors, made with gluten-free ingredients.
That's another thing I saw on the website. They have this on their keto collection. For those of you who are watching your carbohydrate intake, they seem to advertise a low, sugar content in this sauce.
Something I found to be a little, what's the word I'm looking for? Counterintuitive, maybe. They listed egg yolks as an ingredient on there, and I was surprised to see how thin that was, given the presence of egg yolks. I would certainly expect that to be an emulsifier, of course, in a natural sense, but at least provide some level of thickness, certainly more than what we see here in front of us.
Yeah, and actually that's a bit of an interesting point, and I'll kind of lead off to a little bit of the tasting notes because that's such a perfect transition there. I think that you kind of stumbled across something there that was quite poignant there, Eric, because you had said originally you thought it looked like a Caesar salad dressing. After tasting this and after you mentioning the egg yolks as an ingredient, I'm almost kind of disposed to think that this is, reminiscent of a Caesar salad dressing in a lot of ways. It's got that heavy kind of pepper flavor. It's got a lot of vinegar, and I think that, I mentioned to you guys that primarily what I was getting off it was the vinegar and the pepper.
Just no anchovies, thank goodness.
No anchovies, so almost kind of like an anchovy-free Caesar salad dressing in that regard, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty exact. My flavor notes as well. I find it interesting that it says it expires, too, on August 5th of 2021. It seems like a short...
Right.
A shorter life, shelf life than many sauces you will find out there. So that's interesting too.
Doesn't have much longer to go until it works better for you.
Yeah.
Right,
until it's nice and expired, aged a little bit.
Only a couple of months to go.
Let's look at an example. Look at one of those other small batch barbecue sauces we pulled out there, Eric, and let's see what the date on is of one of those. This is for a future episode here.
I have I have a barbecue sauce here, which an up and coming. We're maybe revealing too much here.
I think you are E.
Okay,
we'll cut that. We'll bleep it out for the listeners. Keep them on their tippy toes.
So this one actually expires the exact same. It's actually expires September 8th of 20. Actually, this expired. It's September 8th of 2020.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Of course you have it. What?
That's perfect.
Oh my God! I was gonna say because you bought this a couple months ago, right?
Yeah.
But not. It was after September, wasn't it? Or was it before?
I didn't buy it after.
You bought it from the dollar store clearance rack.
So you bought it.
We bought it.
You couldn't have bought it more than a month in advance of that, though, right?
It was a couple months. It was only we bought this. It would have been like July.
But still, we're talking like maybe. What does that give you? A 3-month shelf?
What do they expect you to do? Drink it?
Man, Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty
Eat it with
crazy.
a spoon?
Okay, well,
I mean-
maybe look. See, now this is fun because I won't edit this, and I'll look like an idiot on the podcast, having wildly underestimated the lifespan of sauces. So,
Right? Well, this other barbecue sauce that we have here is good until December
2020.
December of 2021.
Oh, okay, all right. So
Yeah,
that's
a
more.
little while longer.
I generally think like a sauce like that, especially that's vinegar based, you're looking at least a 2-year shelf life. Generally,
I mean,
right?
the prevalence of eggs, though, I mean,
Yep,
that
that
may
makes sense.
come back into.
Oh yeah,
And
for this Ivory sauce,
I
absolutely.
wonder.
Yeah.
This probably does need to be refrigerated too.
Yeah,
yes,
it said that for
absolutely.
sure.
Sometimes sauces, especially vinegar heavy ones, don't. And it's interesting because normally you would add those egg yolks for a little bit of richness, and I didn't really get a whole lot of richness out of this at all.
No.
I don't know what were your tasting notes there, Eric, or do you want to read the ingredients first? I know that's your favorite part of the episode.
I think we usually like to. I like just to give our flavor profiles before I read the ingredients.
Okay, well, dealer's choice.
I picked up, like you had said, mostly vinegar, a very vinegar heavy sauce, and I couldn't shake the idea that it was like a dressing,
Yes.
because of the whiteness and whatnot. Your mind immediately harkens to like ranch at first, but it was too vinegary for ranch. And then honestly, I was like, well, this tastes and looks like Caesar salad dressing.
Yeah, it's kind of like we had mentioned. What was that other sauce before that we were having some color discrepancy on? Do you remember what that was?
Negative.
I don't.
There was a sauce at some point prior in our listening that we had mentioned that if it had been a different color, we would have kind of anticipated it tasting differently, I guess. And that was kind of how I felt about this one, was that for those of you who like our podcast listening to our podcast more than we do, feel free to chime in and let us know what sauce we're thinking of that we've forgotten already. But no, I think your brain is kind of forcing you to categorize it as something that's already a known, quantity here, whereas I don't know.
But yeah, I mean, but the flavor profile isn't different enough. Like, it's funny. We made comments about how this sauce could, pass for like a high-end liquor bottle. I think if they put several shots of vodka in there, that might give it something more flavorful, like something more interesting.
Recipes, maybe?
Wow, shots of vodka. I mean, to me, if anything, I was thinking the exact opposite. Like, go, I don't know, throw some more mayo or something in there. I don't know, because when you're saying vodka, I'm already thinking I'm getting blasted with vinegar on this, and throwing another ingredient that's kind of like, very
astringent and
volatile, I guess.
Powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll thin it down even more.
Yeah, thin it down even more, than and this is, I don't know if we mentioned that. This is extremely thin. Yeah, we did, because you were talking about the squeeze bottle, so
probably several times now.
Yeah, if you had a squeeze bottle, this would effectively be a squirt gun, because that's what it would be doing.
Absolutely, yeah, you'd be messing with a super soaker,
blasting your friends across the room with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be so much more interesting. It just doesn't. I had a lot of high hopes for it, and it was very lackluster, I guess. It just doesn't. And even okay, so we full disclosure here, we tried this on chicken nuggets. It suggested chicken. And it was okay with chicken.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. It reminded me almost of the long discussion that we had about the original barbecue sauce was just nothing more than vinegar and some spices.
Essentially, this, I think it was mainly like vinegar, salt, and pepper, which I think is essentially what this is with
a little bit of creaminess.
Some white thrown in.
This is a very
white.
traditional barbecue sauce. I think it'd be very interesting to see how this reacts actually being like basted over some food on like a hot grill. Like, how would this watery sauce react with that kind of intense heat?
It couldn't burn up like these sugary ones.
No,
I do want to circle back to that because I think you make an interesting point there. So let's not forget that, because I want to get Tori's tasting notes here first, but I do want to cycle right back to what you were saying there about putting it on meats on the grill.
But yeah, Adam, you made an interesting point there about having a hard time separating what your brain already knows and what is currently on your tongue. So that I think that's what I was sort of suffering from. I wrote ranchy and buttermilky, among other things. It doesn't make any mention of buttermilk on there at all. Maybe it was a consistency thing for me. Maybe it was a hint of that vinegar. I didn't get pounded with the vinegar much like you did.
Oh, really?
No. Honest to goodness, I thought it was sort of bland, really. I didn't really care for it that much. Of course, vinegar, I had, that was certainly a note there, but I don't want to steal your thunder, but you hit it on the head. Vinegar, pepper. That was that. I think I'm not saying it's a bad sauce. I think for this particular application, it was a bit bland, a bit plain. I think something like that on hot coleslaw. hot German.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking too. If you were to kind of whip up a batch of coleslaw or something, you could throw this on there.
Or potato salad, German potato salad, hot potato salad.
Yeah, I could see that.
Hot potato salad, that'd be interesting. That'd be neat.
Something, like you said, if you didn't want the sugar in it, because it is, like you said, they had advertised the keto friendly. There's no sweetness, I think, really to speak of in this. If you didn't like a sweeter coleslaw, I think you could throw this right on some cabbage and give it a shot. That might actually be a pretty damn... And, if you think about it, truly, what is an excellent barbecue side? Coleslaw. So that might actually be a great way to utilize that.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even just throw this right on a salad, I think, and it would be fine. There's a salad dressing.
Fucking Brussels sprout salad. Tell us more about it. Jesus Christy.
Chickpeas. It's just the ultimate turn-off for me.
Fucking vomit. Anyways, speaking of vomit, I wanted to kind of circle back around to what you were saying earlier there, Eric. And my thing is that a lot of times with barbecue, it's, heavily visual to me. And you get that, well-smoked piece of meat, comes out and it's nice and it's got a little char on it and it's dark brown. It's got that smoky and it's sizzling and there's just steam dripping off of it, And
you're making my mouth water.
Yeah, exactly. And to me, if you had a sauce like this that's white, I'm just imagining, like, what in the hell would you be cooking with this? A sauce that's white would be more appealing with that. Because I'm just thinking, like, you had a nice brisket or something like that, you pour a white sauce on it, or a piece of chicken that's already white to begin with,
Yeah, it would destroy that.
On white on white. I mean, it's just, I don't know. Or pork. To me, the idea of just, like, pepper and like a white sauce on pork makes me, if I saw that, I would think it was diseased, like it just doesn't sound appealing to me visually, I guess.
Do you think you could put this on a salmon steak to more success? I don't think it would taste very good, honestly.
No.
A salmon steak. Well, that's an idea I hadn't considered. See, to me, I think something like a salmon does benefit from certain richness, like the umami flavors and like a soy sauce or something, and the salt, which I think this contains. Maybe not as much the pepper, and I think that also something like that, especially a salmon, a little stronger fish, really benefits from a little bit of sweetness, which just is totally lacking in.
But salmon's also good with a little bit of like lemon or lime, and this actually has some lime.
Yeah. Definitely got lime.
Or lemon pepper. That's a good point, too.
Right?
So you've got your little bit of acidity in there, definitely. I would probably give it a shot if we're being honest. I don't think I would give it a total write-off from something like that.
Maybe more appropriate on a chicken wing, possibly. Something you can really dip in there and really coat it well.
I think to that extent, you were kind of mentioning maybe using this as a marinade or cooking it like a basting sauce or something. To me, I actually don't see that. To me, I almost think that in order to use a sauce like this to any benefit, you would almost have to have something that was like smoked or cooked in advance and kind of had was bringing a little bit of its own flavor to the table. Like, for example, if you had some chicken drumsticks that were maybe like hickory smoked and had a little bit of like a brown sugar rub on them or something like that, and then to dip them in a sauce like this that wasn't bringing any sweetness of its own and not a lot of smokiness or anything.
In fact, it would bring a lot of contrast.
Exactly. And I think if you combined those flavors, that might be the perfect, ensemble, actually. I just don't think that it's something that you would want to use on its own. I think that it's something that has to kind of play off what else is on your plate, essentially.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely would agree. Any stabs on what type of vinegar they use?
Well, I actually wanted to make a guess here. As someone who formerly worked at a Home Depot in the paint department, basing purely off of the color in this sauce, I'm going to guess that the first ingredient was titanium dioxide.
Wow.
Ooh.
Famously the white pigment, one of the more expensive ones. I'm guessing that's not it by your reaction.
Not it.
Okay.
So we have, I will go ahead and read the ingredients. My favorite thing to do here.
You're trembling with anticipation.
Number one
Fully
ingredient.
erect.
Jesus. Number one ingredient is soybean oil, followed by cider vinegar, which is interesting because I didn't get any cider.
I would have said white vinegar, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. So
not just because of the color, just because I associate that white vinegar with more of the vinegar punch, whereas a cider vinegar is a more mild, sweeter vinegar, I guess.
Yeah, I'm surprised at how punchy this seems to me as well. You and me both, Adam and myself here agreed that it was really vinegar on the front, whereas Tori, not so much.
I got it. It just didn't slap me around like it did you boys.
But then it has water, egg yolk, contains less than 2% of honey, distilled vinegar. There's our white distilled vinegar.
Mm-hmm.
Salt, lemon juice concentrate, black pepper, lime juice concentrate, salt, cornstarch, cayenne pepper, xanthan gum.
Is there any gar gum? Wasn't that one of the episodes we had recently?
That was one of our episodes.
Gar gum.
Gar gum.
Who knows what gar gum is?
I meant to look up to see what gar gum was, but again, if the listeners want to chime in what the hell gar gum is.
Gar gum's the troll that lives under the bridge.
Yeah.
Maybe it's part of the blend here, because the last thing is organic gum blend. Who knows what the heck that is?
That's his cousin.
Yeah.
I'm almost having more fun not knowing what the actual answer to gar gum is. So
I know the fish, the gar.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, when you take out its gums as a preservative, that's the gar gum. Okay, that was a stretch too. But all right, well, I mean, we can let's move right into our ratings here. I think we've been pretty, upfront about this as we normally are. I don't know, Tori, you want to lead us off with a rating there?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't necessarily hate it. I'm disappointed in it. I don't know. Maybe not disappointed is the right word. I mean, maybe my anticipations were a bit too high, possibly. I don't know. I thought it certainly looked unique, and it enticed me with its color and its clean labeling, and of course the glass bottle and the lid and everything else. But with all that being said, on a chicken nugget, that may have not have done it the justice that
right.
I think it deserves. So I'm willing to cut it a couple of breaks there. But all that being said, I think maybe a 7 is pretty accurate for this stuff. Maybe 6, we'll go 6.5. 6.5.
Yeah, I actually, man, I think you nailed it there. If you would humor me for a moment, did you give this the old sniff test that you're famous for?
Of course. Oh yeah, I had it on the side of the Dixie cups like crazy. Oh yeah, I have my nose all in there for sure. Oh,
the reason that I bring that up is that now, having heard the ingredients, when I give it a sniff, the number one thing I get is definitely cider vinegar as opposed to a white vinegar. I'm definitely getting more of that cider vinegar smell, which I always forget to give it the smell test.
Oh, for sure. Now that you mention that, yep.
And I think maybe that's maybe that's a little bit of the power of suggestion, but to me truly, I've smelled a lot of apple cider vinegar, and to me that is like iconic. Apple cider vinegar smell is the only smell I'm getting off that.
Yeah, it is strong of apple cider after reading the ingredients and then revisiting the sniff
right
test.
Yeah.
But no, kind of on to your point there, Tori. I think that was a very fair assessment, and I think we're probably all going to be roughly in that ballpark. And okay, Eric's shaking his head because apparently he has to be Mr. fucking Contrarian again.
Oh boy.
But I'm going to give it a 1. But
I've never given any sauce lower than a 2 so far.
No, you gave the Hooters sauce a 1, didn't you? I think our average...
That doesn't even count.
Really? You gave that a 2?
I did.
What were you anticipating was worse than that?
Garbage.
Okay.
Gar gum.
Gar gum. Yeah, pure liquid gar gum. But anyways, no, I think you had a fair assessment there, Tori, and I really, like you said, I don't think we're doing this any justice on the chicken nuggets. I think really, to me, I'm reading in a little bit of, with the price, the labeling, the appearance, the nice glass bottle. There has a certain je ne sais quoi to this sauce, and I think there's a little bit of air of pretense there. And I think to that end, I think that they're anticipating the use of this sauce on something more like those guys who, maybe they're some 60-year-old white dude is retired and he's taken up, smoking meats as a hobby. And I think that this is really intended to be used on something like that, where it's bringing a lot of its own to the table, and this is just a little bit of a booster for it. And I really think on I believe a Tyson, chicken nugget that's slightly burned, as I prefer them, has no other real flavor of its own. I think it's fallen flat on there, but I think it'd be a good compliment to something.
Yeah. The pretentiousness may be well deserved, and I would be interested to find out if it is or not.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I'm coming from too. I actually think I would be willing to give this sauce a revisit. I won't be able to get it before it expires probably, but I would think it'd be nice to give this a revisit, maybe on something like a hickory smoked, brown sugar rubbed chicken drumstick or something like that.
Sure.
I think it'd be really worthwhile to give it a shot at that and see if, we kind of stumbled onto maybe more is meant as a compliment there. So to that end, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10.
Maybe once it expires, he can whip something up and give you his own rating on
There
it.
you go. I mean, hey, well, maybe it'd be like that. You were saying that sometimes sauces age in the fridge. Maybe it'll develop a more complex flavor as it ages.
Maybe I'll get some sulfur notes in there.
Yeah,
Once the eggs hit the right level.
You have enough sulfur notes of your own.
I opened myself up for that one.
Oof.
It's interesting the way you say like a booster. Like, I mean, there's no doubt about it. Like some complexity added to it, or a more complex food brought into it. It could provide, that extra vinegar and pepper punch that would really elevate an already well cooked dish too. Unfortunately, though, we rate sauces. Like, that's what we do. So,
right.
As a sauce, how does this stand? And our rating is simply against, ketchup is 5. Is this any more exciting than ketchup? No, I don't think it is. I think this is the ketchup. This might be the most like blasé barbecue sauce I've, tried in a while. Is it bad? No. Is it something I'm going to rave about? No, I'm not.
Right.
Ultimately, I was going to give this like a 4. Okay. I'll give it a 4.5. I'll edge it up towards ketchup. And in the right instance, with the right food, there's no doubt this could really be part of something magical. But by itself, it just isn't.
You know what, Eric? I think you make a lot of really good points. And I actually think I want to go back and do a podcast first and fully revise my rating. I think I'd actually like to come in between you and Tori. I think I'd like to be at a 5 now.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah, I actually.
Look at that.
I literally thought he was joking.
Look at that.
I wasn't even lifting the pen.
You're quite the salesman.
No, I'm dead serious. You legitimately changed my mind because you know what? You made some really good points there. Whereas the fact that we generally rate sauces on their ability to stand on their own. We acknowledge that sometimes there's a better serving, a better way to prepare them, or maybe an ideal thing. And like you said, if I think this will be a really good complement to some other things potentially, and I'm willing to go back and change it again if we do try it on something like that, and it does really shine. But I think right now, giving it higher than a ketchup, which can truly stand on its own. I mean, I would eat ketchup with a spoon.
Right.
To give it anything higher than that, I think is insulting to ketchup. So.
Wow.
I literally took we have Dixie cups here of the sauce. I literally drank the last I don't know, a quarter ounce, we'll say, or whatever. I just drank it, and I don't know. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't. It wasn't bad. But it was just like
you said. There's nothing that I couldn't do with this that I think I couldn't do with just sitting at home. Take maybe, I don't know, a half cup of mayonnaise, a cup of apple cider vinegar, and throw some black pepper in there. I think you'd have, pretty much spot on. I'm not trying to insult them, but I think that's what you'd have.
I don't know if here we go. Right on the beginning of the label here, there's some flavor text that we didn't actually read.
Okay.
We read everything else about the stand label, right? Okay. This tangy sauce, it's tangy, is true northern Alabama with a pinch of cayenne.
I wasn't getting much of that.
No.
It wasn't even in the ingredients.
Yeah, there was. You read it.
There's no cayenne. Oh, there is cayenne pepper. I did read
dumb
it.
Fuck. Okay. I told you it was in there. I remember you seeing it.
Well, I did not get any cayenne.
I didn't get it either.
I think it could benefit from a larger, more than a pinch. Let's just say that.
Here's a good way to describe it, I think, for the listeners. Black pepper has a little bit of its own heat on its own that we've talked about before when you have it in large quantities. And due to the overwhelming presence of black pepper and the seeming lack of cayenne pepper, to me, if there was any heat coming from the cayenne, it was totally masked under the black pepper, and that was all I was detecting.
When I first read that label, and before the tasting, I actually wondered if we were going to be doing a heat index.
Oh, wow.
Good question,
okay.
Yeah.
But
totally unnecessary.
Yeah,
totally
absolutely.
Unnecessary.
Although possibly still higher heat rating than the Hooters wing sauce. But, but I think that we've set that as our ground zero, so to speak. So
right.
Probably not. Well, cool. Yeah, that's good. I think, like I said, okay, a little bit of a podcast first there. I changed my mind. I listened to Eric, actually, for once. I evaluated.
Don't make a habit of that.
He didn't even believe I was listening to him genuinely.
I thought for sure you were
and value his opinion.
For sure you're going up for some sort of a joke there. I didn't believe you were being serious at all.
Well, I am leading up to something a little bit here because for this episode we're gonna bust back an old segment and we're gonna give ourselves an old-fashioned recipe.
All right.
And in this instance, I'm going to specifically. I do need to work up a little bit. I don't know if you guys have. I sometimes you guys don't hear the post-production episodes right away, so I don't know if you guys have heard some of the more recent episodes. I've been working in a little bit of sound effects.
I have been, yes, I've noticed.
Some of the fun, so I've been having a little bit of fun with myself there, but I do need to work up a little cheer or something for a recipes segment, but no, this one in particular, I'd like to make a recipes because I'd actually like you to do a creative reimagining on the barbecue chicken pizza. I'd like you to design a pizza from the ground up that would use this sauce. Feature it prominently. And I came up with this before we tasted it, so it's going to be even harder now. But it doesn't have to involve chicken, but I'd like you to build a complex, I would say at least 3 ingredient, not including cheese, pizza, kind of from the ground up with this sauce.
All right. I think I could do that. Let's see here. On the fly. So
start with the crust. What kind of crust are we looking at here?
I'm thinking like a thin crust. And actually you could
like a New York
You know
style?
what I'm thinking? Like I'm almost actually thinking like a biscuit crust. I'm going like
Is that a thing or is
it
that for pizzas?
Yeah, you can use a biscuit crust for breakfast pizzas.
Okay.
So
all right.
think chicken.
Okay.
And biscuits.
Okay.
And Ivory barbecue sauce. And onions.
What kind of onions? Red onions?
No, I'd use a sweet onion. I'd use a Vidalia sweet onion, and I would trying to think what other toppings I put. So chicken, onion.
Then like a cooked Vidalia or just like a raw?
Well, you'd put it on the pizza raw, and the pizza would cook.
Oh, okay, all right, very good. Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
And I'm trying to decide, like, would you use this instead of red sauce? Which I guess so.
You're putting cheese on this, right?
This barbecue, absolutely.
What kind of a cheese?
Probably gonna go with let's go with a white cheddar and a sprinkle of regular cheddar for some color.
Okay, very good.
And you know what?
Now let's talk about layering here too. Like, so you got your biscuit base. Are you putting the sauce directly on top of the biscuit base?
Yes. So you're gonna do biscuit crust.
Okay.
Press it out pretty thin into your pan.
All right.
Spoon in your Ivory barbecue sauce.
Okay.
Have some, ideally, like mostly pre-cooked chicken. That's how we always do it with our pizzas. When we put chicken on there, we pre-cook the chicken.
Okay.
Chop it up.
Yeah, I would think you would
put
not
that
want
on
raw
there.
chicken on there.
Yeah, you don't want to put raw chicken. Don't do
not
that.
Cooking it that long. Yeah. Or do. I mean,
chop up raw onions on there. Put your raw sweet Vidalia onions.
Okay.
And what might be interesting for a little bit of acidity, even though there's so much vinegar in the sauce, but maybe some little bit of like chopped up Romano tomatoes, just a little just a couple slices here and there, sliced tomato. Then top it with your sharp white cheddar and some yellow cheddar cheese.
You're a cheese on top kind of guy.
Cheese on top, yeah, absolutely. Okay. Put it in the oven, melt that through. Take that out, and you can even use this as a little bit of like a dipping sauce on top, on the side, and for your crust. It might be good.
You know what? I think with even with the element of surprise there, and I was kind of even trying to throw you a little bit of a loop. I think you did a pretty good job this time. I don't think I can even really make fun of you. I think
you are the pizza master.
I don't think I would have done any better, and I think maybe you copped out a little bit by basically copying 3/4 of a buffalo chicken pizza, but I'll give you.
But going with a very different kind of savory, and actually,
you had a different approach.
Yeah, if that's the wild card, I mean, you got to work around it,
right?
Again, more vinegar. You gotta like vinegar if you're gonna try this pizza. But a little bit of a balsamic drizzle on top.
Yeah, I can see
Since
that.
you got the tomatoes, chicken, onions, this vinegary sauce, barbecue sauce, the pepper, a biscuit crust, which is gonna give you that kind of like a flaky and salty.
Yeah.
I think I could see that.
No, I think you're right. I think if I was to change that at all, I think all I would do is maybe I would put my cheese underneath, and I would put the
toppings.
I'd put the chicken on top, and then I'd put the onion on top. And I think I put the onion on last, just because I think, especially with a sweet onion like that, it's really good if it gets a little bit more crisp,
burnt, a little almost like caramelization.
Yeah,
going on.
Then a little bit more raw. And I like to have my toppings, like I said, get a little almost a bit burnt on top instead of being under the cheese. But that's personal preference. And I think the only thing I would do, the tomatoes I think were a good choice as the onions, because they may be boosting a little bit of that sweetness that you wouldn't be getting from the sauce itself.
Right.
And I think actually that maybe the only thing I would say is maybe I would actually throw on some sliced jalapenos on there too.
Yeah. A little bit of heat would be a nice added flavor,
because it maybe
more complexity.
Picks up that pepper heat that we're not really getting aside from that black pepper on this. So,
but again, you gotta like heat. I don't often think of jalapenos as a pizza ingredient. I guess, although I'm sure a lot of people do.
No, I think
who like heat.
Okay, well, I'll give you props on that, Eric. I think you did a pretty good job that round. You've gained a lot of respect for me this episode. This is a rare one. I can't even talk too much shit about you at the end of the episode here. So, Tori, what do you think about that recipe?
I thought it was pretty good. I'd give it a spin. Hell yeah. I don't see why not. Sure.
Yeah, if any listeners want to make that and give that a shot, I mean...
Let us know how it tastes.
Yeah, throw it on Instagram. Tag us, whatever.
Yeah, sure. I mean, hell, I don't know if you could maybe even build something like that on Domino's. Hell, you might be able to get those ingredients and just throw this sauce on top and kind of replicate it that way. If you're a little on the lazy side, I guess. Might be a way to approach it. So, but if you choose to do that, feel free to let us know how it goes. As always, we really appreciate hearing about some little, any kind of community involvement. We get a kick out of that. So, great. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up pretty much for this episode here on one of the sauces that helped create the podcast to begin with. Do you have any closing thoughts there for us, Eric?
Hey, January's turning out to be an interesting month, and 2021. Let's keep it fresh and keep it new. I kind of want to talk about it earlier in the podcast, but
go ahead, bring us back in time.
Here we go. All right. Well, I don't know if we actually touched on this last time. I know we were talking about the new year, and people tend to do a New Year's resolution. I don't think we actually talked about New Year's resolutions.
That's a good point.
And they always fall through, right? I mean, most, I think it's 80% or more tend to drop their New Year's resolutions by February. I mean, it just doesn't happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So hearing that, I decided to go for quantity, and then maybe one of them will stick. So I'm trying to change things up a lot this year. I'm trying to be more active and take less naps and spend less money, do less Kickstarters. We'll see what actually sticks and what doesn't, but. And I thought it'd be interesting to hear what you guys were doing for, if you were doing any New Year's resolutions.
Drink more beer. I think that's definitely on my list.
Nice story.
Yeah, I want to drink categorically more beer than I did last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going to be hard to do.
Sounds like a fun one.
Aim high, brother. Aim for the stars. You might hit the moon or whatever.
You know what? Generally speaking, for me, I actually take the opposite approach as you, because it's such a cliche for resolutions to fall through. And it kind of is that whole thing about, people make a diet and their whole goal is that they want to do the diet, for 3 months and then live the rest of their entire life the way that they want to live it. And it just really doesn't work. That's kind of the part of the problem, is that people want to do things kind of on a temporary basis when really what you need is actually a lifestyle change. So kind of that effect, I don't really make resolutions in general. If I'm going to do something, I just decide I'm not going to do something as this year. If there's something I want to change, I do kind of reflect a little bit at the end of the year end. I think most people do, but I won't wait for the new year. I'll make a change if I want to make a change.
I suppose that's true.
Yeah,
I kind of feel along the same lines. I mean, if I want to do something, I'm just going to do it. And if I want to make something that's more permanent, I'm going to just do it whenever.
And I try to just take a long-term, lifestyle change mindset about it rather than trying to make a temporary 1 year 2021 resolution. But on that end, I am always trying to kind of be on the mindset of trying to lose weight because, as we mentioned before, I'm a thick boy, and it never hurts. And the thing about it is, I don't always succeed in actually losing weight, but the thing I try to do is if I keep on a mindset of trying to lose weight, it helps me not gain weight and go the wrong direction. So
sure, absolutely.
And then my other thing would be to teach you the difference in the words between less and fewer.
Huh. Okay.
There you go. Speaking of pretentious.
Yeah. What was it you said earlier? I know you said something that was less, and I wanted to correct you and say fewer.
Huh. Interesting. My speech is terrible. My grasp of the English language is appalling.
I was so nice to this episode that I had to at least give you one parting shot, so...
But so far, I haven't had any naps yet, and I've managed to hit all of my step goals on my activity, Samsung's whatever, I don't even know what this is, Gear Watch, whatever it's called.
Rock on, keep up the good work.
And you're a weekend.
Every day.
That's pretty good.
Every
Terrific.
day. So
very well done.
That hasn't happened at all last year.
Yeah, I was going to say, when was the last time you had a nap-free week? Since you were born.
Week? Yeah, really. I love my naps, but I'm gonna say sayonara to them. I need to be more productive when I get home from work and stay moving. So.
Do you have any resolutions based on your Tinder gals? You haven't given us any updates on those recently. It's been a long time since we touched on that. The situation hasn't changed as far as I'm aware, has it?
I've talked to several girls on Tinder. I've got
If any of you lady listeners out there would like to go on a date with our friend Eric, please send us a message at softspoken@gmail.com and we'll get you hooked up. You guys have seen pictures on the Instagram.
I'm speaking with a few right now over the holidays. It was nice to get a little, some hits, but
cool.
but nowhere yet, really. So
all right, very good. Well, maybe
it's cool and hopeful, and we'll see.
Maybe 2021's your year. Okay. Tori, any closing thoughts there for us?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I really want to hit on today. It may or may not have been clear. It's sort of clear to me. I think we may have sold this particular sauce a little short with it being on a chicken nugget. I'm certain it's a good sauce in the right application. To E's point, I know, you want to judge the sauce on where it is right here in front of you and so on and so forth. But in my heart of hearts, I do feel as if this particular sauce, we sold ourselves short. So don't do that to yourself. Don't sell yourself short. That's silly. There's a lot of other people out there trying to sell you short. So don't you do it yourself. Don't be a dummy. But yeah, with that in mind, we of course we appreciate your time here, and we'll love to see you next week. It's always a pleasure.
And I'll bounce right off that too, because I think that was a good point. And I'll say another thing that we discussed about the sauce is that if we do try it on something else, we're willing to change our mind. And I think that's another thing too, that it's, you don't have to feel guilty for flip-flopping. Changing your mind is an indication of personal growth. And I think being, having an open mind is an important part of, I guess, being a better person, if you want to look at it that way. So that's, some good lessons we learned from this sauce here, but in all seriousness, I would love to give this, try this on something more intended purpose, and I would love to come back and give it a much better rating because I don't know. Seems like at least I like to get that out of my $7. So, but no, that'll wrap it up for us this week. Like I said, we really appreciate you guys listening to us as always. And if you would like to do anything for us in turn, we really appreciate you stopping by on whatever platform listening to us. Give us a rating or a review. If you have any questions, you want to contact us, you want to go on a date with Eric, feel free to reach out to us at softspoken@gmail.com. We're really trying to boost up our listener involvement. We like doing this for you guys, and we want to do more of what you guys like as well. So, but in order for that to happen, you guys, just communicate with us. Let us know, what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, what else you'd like to see, and we're happy to accommodate that. So, all right, well, that'll do it for this week, and we'll be back next week with hopefully a sauce equally as interesting as this.
Hopefully.
Wow, hey, what a show. Don't forget to drop us a line. Our email is saucespoken@gmail.com. Why don't you stop on by on Twitter? We're at Sauce Spoken. We'd love to hear from you. Send us a recommendation or a request. We'd be happy to hear from you. And finally, on Instagram, we take goofy pictures every once in a while. We like to throw them on there. That's going to be Sauce Spoken Official. Please share us with your family and friends. Give us a review, a subscription. It would be an honor. Or just a little note down there at the bottom. Just let us know how we're doing. That would be terrific. But we are Sauce Spoken. Once again, really glad to have you here tonight. Thanks for listening.